Again, welcome to Python course. In this lectures, we're going to study about the basic steps to develop a program. Normally, this topic is covered in software engineering course or system analysis and design course. So our motivation here is this lecture will show you the basic step to develop a program that starts from analyzing a problem, designing a solution, and implementing the solution by creating a program. So again, these are the software development process. The first step is the requirement specification. This is where the system designers will normally interact with the users or the stakeholders of the project, try to get a function and also non-function requirement of the system. So a function requirement of the system would be something like what functions, what are the tasks of the system. For example, I'm designing inventory system. So one of the functions would be to keep track of the items in the warehouse. When we had an item, we increment it. When an item is sold, we decrement the item. At the end of the day, we can update the items remainder. So these are all the functions. Now, non-function requirement will be the quality of the system. For example, is the system user-friendly, more easy to learn? Or is the system well secured? Or is the system more faster to process data? So these are the quality of the system. So again, in software development process, the first step is the requirement specification. Actually, the requirement also, we have to know what should be the input of the system and what should be the output of the system. Then we move to the system analysis. This is where we analyze the input, processing, and output. Then we'll move to the design phase. This is where we use the design tools to design our system. Example, designing the algorithms that, again, the system we use to perform its task. If any non-functional requirement we can design, then again, this is the design phase. Then after we move to the design phase, this is where now we are going to use our programming language, the main tool. In this course, we are studying Python. So we are going to use the Python to implement the system. This is where we develop the system, implementation phase. After we develop the system, we test it. And there are so many different types of testing. We can have something like unit testing, integrating testing, and black box testing, alpha testing, beta. There are so many different types of testing. So if we test the system and the system is okay, then we deploy it, deployment, we put the system into operation. Along the way, we may do a maintenance of the system when the system is again in operation. So let's go through the step one at a time. So the first is the requirement specification. As we said earlier, this is where we are going to elicit the requirement of the system, the information by the system. And normally we get this from, again, the users or the stakeholders. So this is a formal process that seeks to understand the problem and document in detail what the software system needs to do. This phase involves a close interaction between the users and also the designers. So this is where, again, we try to understand the system. What performance, what are the tasks that the system will, again, perform. And we said that most of the examples in this course are very simple. So requirements are clearly stated in our problem in this course. But in the real world, however, problems are not well defined. So we need to study a problem carefully to identify its requirements. And again, we have two types of requirement, the functional requirement and non-functional requirement. In this course, most programs, again, is well stated. So we don't need to, again, study the requirement too much. So next we move to the system analysis. This is where, again, we analyze the system. In this case, we seek to analyze the business process in terms of data flow, identify the system input and output, very important, And then we move to the system design. This is where we again translate the input to output. We need some algorithm. So in the system design phase, this is where we design the algorithm that will transform the input to output. So part of the analysis will entails modeling the system behavior. The model is intended to capture the essential elements of the system and also to define services to the system. Then we move to the system design. This is again where the process of designing the system component come up with the algorithms or the models, decompose it. If the problem is very large, we have to break the program into smaller units. Then we can manage it more easier. So this phase involves the use of many levels of abstraction to decompose the program into manageable component. We can identify our classes here, interfaces, establish relationship among the classes and also the interfaces. Here we are dealing with object-oriented programming. So here also we can design, we can use the UML diagram, a unified model language, which consists of 14 diagrams. And we can have the class diagram, sequential activity diagram, etc. to again design the system. So after we design the system finish, the next step is where we are going to again implement the system. So this is design phase still. We have the input, processing, and output. Now the essence of system analysis and design is input, process, and output, which is called the IPO. And mostly in system design, this is where we transform the input to output. Let's say I'm designing a system to calculate salary for employees. So my input that I'll be concerned about is, first I have to understand the problem. So I know the two inputs I need is the hourly work and the rate of the employees. Then my output should be salary, how much I will pay them before tax. So I will design that, okay, when I multiply the two input together, I will get the output. So that is the design phase, the algorithm. We say the implementation is where again we translate. So from requirement specification to system analysis to system design, we can even use pen and paper, or if there's any application, like a modeling application that we can use to model the system, we use it. Implementation is where we use the actual programming language to again develop the system. So here we say the process of translating the system design into programs. With separate programs are written for each component and put to work together. So if the program is very large, we can break the program into smaller units. And after we write all the code, the special classes for each one, again, we can integrate all the system together as one unit. So this phase requires the use of programming language like Python, C++, Java, etc. And the implementation involves also coding, testing, and debugging. So in the testing phase, this is where we make sure there's no any bugs in our code or program. So we have to weed out all bugs, ensure the code again meets the requirement specification. An independent team of software engineers not involved in the design and implementation of the project usually conduct the search testing. And also one of the entry-level jobs in software engineering is software testers. Your goal is again testing the system and possible identify bugs and weed it out. So deployment, the system is ready for use. So deployment makes the project available for use. And then the last phase is maintenance. Always is something that we have to be concerned about. Sometimes we may even end up upgrading the system or coming with a new version of the system where we are going to include more features in the system. So maintenance is concerned with changing and improving the product. So a software product must continue to perform and improve in a changing environment. This requires periodic upgrades of the product to fix newly discovered bugs and also incorporate changes. So we finish with the steps of developing a program. Again, as we said, the first step is requirement analysis. Then the second is the requirement analysis is the first most important phase of the development process. When we make a mistake in the requirement analysis phase, it's more easier to fix and it will cost less time to fix it. Now, if we make a mistake in the requirement phase and we didn't notice it until we reach implementation phase, then coming back all the way to requirement, that mistake will cost a lot of time. So in the requirement phase, we have to be careful. We have to understand the system, what should be the input, processing, and output. Then we'll move to the design phase to design the system. Here we can design the algorithm, etc., etc. Then after designing, the system analysis is done. Then we move to the implementation phase where we use the actual program to develop the system. After that, we test the system. If everything went fine, then we move the system to operation, which is the deployment phase. Then the final phase is a continuous phase, that's maintenance. As far as the system is in operation, we always have to maintain it. So here we have a program as an example. This program will let the user enter interest rate, number of hours, and a loan amount, and it will compute monthly payment and total payment. So here we first understand the problem. We analyze the problem also. So first state is the requirement analysis. This is where we understand the problem. What are the input, processing, output? Then we analyze the system. Then next we design the algorithm. This is the formula we came up with. We need an input, which will be the low amount, monthly interest rate. And then also we have to know the amount, number of years that we have to pay in the loan finish. Then we should be able again to compute the monthly payment. So let's see this program. So we can see the code here. So here, the first thing we do is to enter the yearly interest rate. So again, we use our input function. Our data type is float. So we ask the user to enter annually interest rate. Then when the user enter the interest rate, which is annual interest rate, we divide by 1,200 to give us the monthly interest rate. The reason why we divide by 1,200 is that we are going to enter annually, and we know 12 months will give us 1 year. So if I divide by 12, I will get the monthly. Now, after I get the monthly, the amount we enter is percentage, 8.25%. So I have to change it to decimal. So we divide by 100. So that's the reason why we ask the user to enter the annual interest rate. Using the input function, we change it, the data type to float. Then we divide by 1,200 so that we change it to monthly, and it should be in decimal, not percent. So after that, we ask the user to enter the number of years for the loan to be paid. So here we change the data type to int. We use the input function int. Then we ask for the loan amount, and the loan amount also is in float. So at the moment, we know the monthly interest rate, we know the number of years, we know the loan amount. So we can be able to find the monthly payment. So the monthly payment will be the loan amount times monthly interest rate divided by 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus monthly interest rate raised to the power number of years times 12. So after we enter our input, we run the program, it will display our result for us, our answer. So let's run this program here. We should see the answer here. So we can see the answer down. So first enter the annual interest rate. The user enter 5.75. Then enter the number of years as an integer. The user enter 15 years. Enter the low amount. The user enter 25,000. So the monthly payment is $2,076.02. And the total payment we're going to make will be $373,684.53. So this is our input, 5.75 and also 15. Then we also need to enter the loan amount, 250,000. So we also have another program here, computing the distance. So this program will prompt the user to enter 2 points. Then we compute the distance between the 2 points. So the first thing is the requirement analysis. Here we understand the problem. User gets input for 2 points and we find the distance between the 2 points. We analyze the problem. We know what should be the input. We know what should be the process. We know what should be the output. Then next step, we design the algorithm. We came up with this formula. So our 2 points, each point have X and Y coordinate. So we find the difference of the X square, the difference of Y square. This is 2 points. So that's our design phase. Then next, we do our implementation phase. So this is where we're going to write the code. Here we ask the user to enter first point with the 2 double values. So the first point, we enter the X and Y coordinates that make 1 point. So we use the input function to ask the user to enter the X and Y coordinate. Then we ask the user again, enter the second point, which will be S2 and Y2 coordinate. Then we compute. So that's our input. Then there's our processing. The difference of S1 and S2 square. So we multiply it twice plus the difference of Y1 minus Y2 square. So we multiply it twice. Then square root. The square root will be raised to the power 1/2, which is 0.5. So when we run this program, it will tell us that the distance between the 2 points is whatever value we get here. So again, here we have our 2 inputs. The input are the 2 points. Each point have S and Y coordinate. So first point is S1 and Y1. Second point is S2, Y2. Then we have the processing, the formula to find the distance between the 2 points. Then after we get our result, we print it out. So here we have input, processing, then output. So let's run this program. You can see our input here. We have 1.5, negative 3.4. Then the second point is 4 and 5. And now we see enter the S coordinate 1.5, Y coordinate negative 3.4. That's our first point. The second point, S is 4, Y is 5. Then we find the distance. Here we say the distance between the 2 points is 8.7413, etc. So again, we can see this code that is input, processing, then our output. So that will be the conclusion of these lectures. Again, these lectures, we study the process again of developing a program in Python. Actually, it's in any programming language. This topic normally again cover more details in software engineering courses and system analysis and design courses. So we know the first step we study here is requirement analysis. Then we have to get the requirement of the system. Then of course we have to design it. So the first is the requirement, actually requirement specification before the analysis. But most textbook requirement specification, requirement analysis is one unit together. The main goal of requirement stage is to get the functional and non-functional requirements, which are the tasks that the system will perform and also the quality of the system. For example, the speed, security, maintainability, survivability, etc. Then the next step is the design phase. After we design, this is where we develop our algorithm or any model. Then the next phase is implementation. This is when we use our Python program to develop the system. Then we move on to testing. We test our system if there's any error. there's error, we have to fix it. Then we move to the deployment phase for usage of the system. During the usage, operation of the system, we need to maintain it regularly. So again, this will be the conclusion of our lectures, and wish to see you in our next lectures. Thank you.